Hey, what's up guys? My name is Moda and welcome back to the Mining Stacker YouTube channel. Today's video is another day and another freaking Bitmain altcoin miner release. So we have a new ZCASH miner, the Z15 Pro. We do have the full specs on it. We do have a release window. So we're going to talk about it, right? We're going to look at profitability compared to the competition and see what it's looking like, right? So if that sounds good, guys, stay tuned, all right? So I was on Bitmain's Twitter this morning waiting for that freaking KS3 price announcement, and we still didn't get it, right? Which is kind of weird. We'll see what happens there. It does seem like they are rethinking their price, right? Otherwise, this thing would have came out on Friday. Maybe something happened, and we're expecting it for sure today. The fact that it still hasn't came out today, pretty weird. But instead, they did drop this guy on us, right? So we have the new miner. It's the Z15 Pro. So let's go over the specs real quick. So right off the bat, you can see they're advertising that it's double the hash rate. So it's double the hash rate of the original Z15. But what they don't mention is that it's also almost double the wattage, right? So right off the rip, we'll compare the efficiency, right? So it's 3.15 joules per kilosol. And as we compare it to the original guy, it's about 3.59, right? So just the easy math, ballparking it, it's only about a 20% efficiency gain, right? So not too bullish. So what would be good is we want to see, a significant upgrade here, but for potentially, the same wattage or less. But the fact that it's only a 20% efficiency gain versus a miner that came out 3 years ago, not looking too good, right? So that's one problem with it right there. The other reason for this is also just possibly that there's no real competition for Bitmain, right? So we can see the previous releases, the Z15, the regular Z15 came out 3 years ago, right? The only other release that was anywhere close was in May 19, the in Silicon, and it got destroyed when the Z15 came out, and that's essentially been it, right? So this is the problem when there's no other competition or nobody else pushing the limits, right? It's kind of similar to like the D9 situation where Bitmain's essentially just keep competing with itself, right? There's nobody else in the space. They can release junk and people are going to buy it, right? Especially if people are bullish on it. So overall, to me, not very impressive at all, right? It's not one that just based off of this alone, even without knowing the price, I wouldn't be too bullish on it because who knows what can come out that can be more efficient than this, right? Let's say Jazz Miner comes out with one, or let's say Bitmain actually does release one on the newer chips, right? And destroys this one out of the competition. So for me, that reason alone wouldn't really be looking at it, right? Just because of the threat that, okay, they're releasing this thing here, but 6 months from now, they release the Z17, which is a true upgrade, right? Which is on like 5 nanometer chips or whatever new tech is there, and it destroys this thing, right? And then we get a true generational jump, right? Over the span of 3 years, a 20% gain in efficiency is not going to cut it in the ASIC world, right? A new one comes out and it's 2 to 3 times as efficient, it's going to destroy this thing, and whatever little bit you did spend on it, it's going to be worthless essentially. So for like me personally, anything I'm looking at now, I want it to almost be like future-proofed as much as possible. Again, in reality, we don't really know, right? With any of these other ones I've purchased, Bitmain could come out with a pro version in 6 months and blow it out of the water, right? That is the risk you're taking. But when something this obviously isn't the newest tech, to me, it doesn't look good on it, right? With these other ones that I did purchase, the bullish aspect is that hopefully it'll still be competitive in a year, possibly 2 years from now, right? Before the next big, generational leap happens. Okay, and I don't really see that with this guy, right? So just something to keep in mind there. Let's look at profitability. We're going to use actually mine the ASIC. They do tend to be more reliable on their numbers. So let's start with the regular Z15. So again, it's 420K, 1510 on the wattage. So your daily income will be about $4.66. Your net profit after a 10-cent kilowatt hour is about $1, right? So for those of you who got this guy back then though, right, hasn't been too bad, right? 3-year-old miner and it's still profitable. Not bad at all, right? Now let's look at the new guy, which is just essentially kind of almost just doubling it, right? Because again, the hash rate did double, but the power also almost did double, right? So your daily income now jumps up to $9.32. Your electricity cost is $6. Your profitability is now at $3.18 at current bear market prices. And again, this is at that 10-cent kilowatt hour, right? So not the most profitable thing. Again, also just it's not enough of a generational jump for me to even really consider, right? Another thing to factor in, a lot of people don't really like ZCASH, right? And a lot of people call it Ztrash, and everybody has their reasons for it. One thing to factor in, though, is that they have openly said that they do want to go to proof of stake in the future. This is one other thing to consider. There hasn't really been an updated timeline. I know the last time I was kind of researching it, this is the article that popped up. And ECC, which is their main, I wouldn't say owners or anything like that, but Electric Coin Company is pretty much who's running it, right? They've pretty much also decided that they want to go proof of stake, right? So there is no real timeline. They're saying 2025 here. We don't really know. They could have changed their mind by then. I don't really keep up with the community too much, so but the fact that this was put out by them and that this is in their thought process, that also is one less thing that makes me super bullish on them as far as from the mining aspect, right? Not necessarily the project as a whole. In reality, this might be better for them, but for me as a miner trying to invest in hardware, not something you really want to see that they're already thinking about abandoning proof of work, right? So, and again, just another thing to factor. This thing may take forever, may take a lot longer, or this could have even been abandoned by now. Not really sure, not really looking into it. Again, this is a project that don't really look at it too much. So just something to consider though, right? One other factor though is that this is on Equihash and it does mine other coins, right? So it isn't just ZCASH, right? You have Komodo's a big one, and then Pirate, right? These are all privacy coins, or at least Pirate is. It's been around the block. Komodo is another one that you do have the ability to mine potentially, but again, it's not the most bullish thing. It has been around. I think the profitability on that guy was about $1 and change, so not too bullish on that either. But again, you do have those options because remember, it's not just a Zcash miner, it is Equihash, and they do have other coins there. So you can just keep that in mind also. Let's look at the price of Zcash, right? So they are pretty high up there, right? They're ranked number 77 on CMC. If we look at previous price history, their peak was way back in 2018, where they hit $884, which is pretty crazy considering it's only $32 now. And those most recent pump back in when the other ones pumped in May of 2021, it did hit a peak of about $300. It didn't hit as high in that second bump that most of them had in November. It hit, what, 244, so just about there, not too far from there. So give or take, if it were to reach previous all-time high, it'd be about an 8x, give or take, right? But the fact that it was such a big drop-off from the 2018 highs to this, depends on how you look at it, right? To me, not too bullish, because if it continues that trend, then it won't be as high. Some people see it as like, okay, you know, we fumbled a little bit, but we're going to come back harder in this next bull run. Again, it's one of those things you have to kind of be into that project to really be able to see that. Me, from my more outsider perspective, because again, this isn't a coin I really follow, I'm really into, or I'm really bullish on at all. So I don't really follow the community as much. So this would be one of those things, if you do see something here, if you do see potential in Zcash, then that may be something to consider, right? But for me, basing it off of the metrics, basing it off the fact that it's not much of an efficiency gain, these are all kind of negatives, right? So for like me personally, this is not one that would be on my radar pretty much at all, even at a significantly cheap price point, right? So that's the one thing we don't know yet. You could see some predictions here. Just shout out to DJ Mines, was like the first one. Put it at 5K. Realistically, just from gauging looking at the stats real quick and basing it off of the almost non-existent efficiency gain, I would expect this to be more in line with like what happened with the E9 Pro, where wasn't necessarily the craziest biggest jump. I think it's going to come in cheap, right? I think that's going to be the main appeal with this guy. My personal prediction, just throwing it out there, it's going to be under 2 grand, right? That would be the main appeal with it. But again, even if it does come out at that price point, for me personally, because of the reasons mentioned right now, not one I'd really be even interested in, right? Because again, to me, this isn't the latest, greatest tech in here. Who knows if it's because of the chips, if it's because of the algo. Again, it's not really one I follow, but regardless, there'd be too much risk for me, right? Not enough upside for me personally, especially the fact that it's just not enough of an advancement, essentially, right? Because at this point, I wouldn't be too surprised that 6 months from now, we get that Z17 or get whatever, and where it's a true generational jump, right? Again, at this point, it's an upgrade, right? But for 3 years worth of technology in the ASIC world, not enough, right? So again, my personal prediction is probably going to be under 2K. I wouldn't be surprised to see it like the E9 Pro, where it was $12.99 on the initial launch, depending on how that goes. So that means on aftermarket, on like, the websites, expect to see 1,800 to 2,500, maybe 2,000, somewhere in that ballpark, right? Again, we don't know. They might try to pull a D9 and try to launch this thing at 6K, 8K. We don't know, right? They've kind of been unpredictable. They've been kind of experimenting, just like we saw with that D9, right? We didn't expect to see freaking, what was it, 8,500 that thing when it launched? Which, by the way, as of the last price sheet I saw, that thing is down. We're going to probably be seeing 3,000s pretty soon, right? The last little sheet I saw, they had them down to 4,100, right? So if it's one you were kind of looking at, but the price threw you off, is that price has just been tanking, right? So I wouldn't be surprised in the next month or two, especially if we continue this downtrend, if it dips down into the threes. For me, I'm not really into Dash, so it's still not appealing, but based off of that price point, something to think about, right? And historically, it's something we got to look at, that if this guy starts out high like that, like to me, anything over like 4 grand is way too high, right? So don't be too surprised to see if you see that, and then the months after, it starts to bleed down a little bit, right? So my personal guess is that they're going to go back with that E9 Pro playbook, and it's just going to be crazy cheap. I expect it to be, I personally wouldn't be surprised to see like a $1,300, $1,500 MSRP from Bitmain. Again, pegging that anywhere from like 2,000 to 2,500 from third-party vendors. To me, that's what it would be worth, right? And at that point, maybe I would think about it, but again, not really on my radar, not a project I'm bullish on. So it wouldn't be on mine, but it might make sense just from the terms of profitability, right? But time will tell. We'll find out here in a couple days. We'll see what's up. But overall thoughts, not enough of an efficiency gain for 3-year-old tech. But again, this is why we do need competition, guys. We need like the Jazz miners, the IB links to push the innovation, right? This is a perfect example of what happens when there is no competition. We get these crappy little upgrades every couple of years, right? We need like what happened with this K3 or the K7, where it's just like a monumental jump, and it's because of that competition, right? If there's no competition, why are they going to dump money into it? They're going to put out the crappiest, cheapest hardware for the most amount of money to get the most profitability, right? So this is why we do need a root for like the Jazz miners and the gold shells and the IB links, just for pure competition. Even if you're not interested in, even if you think they're garbage, whatever you may think of them, more competition is good for us as the consumer, right? That way we don't get garbage like the, well, not necessarily garbage, but we don't get better upgrades, right? We want the latest and greatest at the best price, and that's what competition gives us, right? All right, guys, just wanted to give you that overview, keep you updated on prices and what's coming out. We'll see what it comes out at. Again, I'm thinking it's going to be pretty cheap. We'll see if they release this freaking KS3 price. I'll keep you guys updated, right? So again, thank you for watching, guys. Let me know in the comments if you're thinking about it, or if you're into ZCASH, or for any of you guys who got the OG back 3 years ago, how it's been doing. I know some of you guys were asking about it. So let me know. Let me know in the comments. Again, thank you guys for watching, and I am out.